So here I have a model, and I want to show the types of graphs that are available for full latent growth. So I'll go and do a full latent growth analysis, um, choosing the variable Ecolab as my latent growth variable. And that analysis will tell me whether Ecolab influences any of the links, including links that involve itself. So I'm going to go to Explore, Full Latent Growth, and I'll choose the Ecolab. Sure. So as we can see, from a first degree growth, which refers to self-moderation or self-moderation or moderation, I can see that there is one relatively strong effect, which is moderating of Ecolab on the link between project management and success. None of the links none of the coefficients under the column Ecolab seem to be different than zero from a statistical standpoint because they're too small and the p-values are too large to be significant. So these two are associated with significant uh, statistical relationships, this one being the strongest. So this suggests that there is no self-moderation, or in other words, there is no warp 2 nonlinear relationship between Ecolab and the two variables it points at. So let's take a look at this one, which refers to a moderating effect um, tested as a growth effect. So once I click on the particular full latent growth coefficient, I get these graphs. So I have uh, megaphone graphs where the lines reflect the strength of the relationships, um, which are also listed here, zero point 0.04, zero point 0.53. So the 0.04 is this almost flat line here, and this one is the more inclined line. That's the 0.53, and this refers to the relationship between project management and success, and the low values of project management uh, are associated with the smaller inclination, which is this line here. So as we can see, there seems to be moderation, there seems to be growth, but this growth goes down as we move toward the splits. These are full sample splits. I have other graphs that I can see that had used full sample splits. Um, these are bars. So again, the difference between the bars in terms of size suggests growth, and as we can see, growth seems to go down as we go from the first split to the last split. And we have also lines. These are similar to the megaphones. These are free floating lines, whereas the megaphone lines, they're scaled to intersect at zero, so they seem to be easier to interpret. Now we have full sample splits where if the split is say 0.29, like here, that means that for the low value of the variable, which is this line here, what I have is actually the 29% of the sample on the left, and then the remainder, which is 71%, it refers to this stronger effect. So just varying these splits for the full sample gives me an idea of how this type of this growth relationship varies. With partial subsample splits, they are very similar in the graphs and floating lines to the full sample splits, but they're different in that around each split, the software takes a partial subsample, which is the size of the first split. So for 0.29, what I have is at that point of the data set, I have 14% to the left, 14% to the right. The 14% to the left of data points refers to the low value of equilibration, and the next 14% next to it to the high value of equilibration, the latent growth variable. So as you can see, the picture is similar. So its growth seems to be stronger at the beginning than toward the end. Now, this growth being stronger at the beginning than toward the end suggests a negative second degree relationship or negative self moderation, but it may not be strong enough because, as you can see, growth is stronger at the beginning of the data set and then goes down, but then remains almost stable toward the rest of the data sample. But we can check that. So what this progression suggests is that there is moderation and there is also double moderation, which is refers to the second degree, and that double moderation should be negative. So let's click on second degree, and here we go. We do have negative double self moderation. I'm sorry, negative double moderation. So we have moderation and then double moderation that is negative, but it's too weak to be statistically significant. As we can see, the p-value here is quite large. So, but that's the interpretation of those graphs for latent growth coefficients. Sometimes it's difficult to interpret those graphs uh, when the relationship is less clear, less stable. So, but this and also this gives us an idea of how complex moderating relationships or growth relationships can be in a sample, and that perhaps we need new approaches to assess moderation that take into account those variations in the moderating effect in a particular model, moderating effect or moderating effects. So, but the main point that I'm trying to make here is that you can now get graphs uh, that are available in version 8.0 onwards for the latent growth coefficients. And there are three main types. These megaphones, the bar graphs, and the free floating lines. And always when you have a big difference here in the angle, you have growth. And as we can see, there is growth more at the beginning of the sample than at the end because the split here uh, it tends to show you more what happens at the end. And you can use full sample splits as well as partial subsample splits. The partial subsample splits show you what's happening in a more localized manner close to the split point, which is in this case is 86% of the sample of the data set. So this is a more localized view of what's happening because it doesn't use the entire sample. It uses a partial subsample. So this concludes this demo on the graphs that can be seen for full latent growth.